Hi, welcome to the Tiny Apocalypse tutorial, Glitch Update. The update brings a completely revamped mod, with a new art style, new cards, and balance. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to play Tiny Apocalypse in details. First off, you're going to be welcomed by this message, telling you to select a color. To do so, click on your name on the top right corner of the screen and click Change Color. The table is divided in two: the base part and the mission part. We begin at the base, choosing our survivors, and after that, we'll go straight into a mission and worry about the base part later. Here's all the survivors players can gain. Each player has their own survivors deck. At the start of a game, each player will gain 2 of 5 survivors or 3 of 5 if alone. Since I'm alone, I'll gain 3 of 5 survivors. When choosing your survivors, it's important to look at its loadout and the mission passive. It's best to choose one that has a good loadout and one that has a good mission passive. Before choosing, players can search and see all survivors' linked cards, like so. Survivors that are not chosen will be discarded. If you want to listen to the OST of Tiny Apocalypse, you can do so by clicking music on top of your screen. There will be a full 50 minutes and plus soundtrack and another 40 minutes plus from the classic version. You can also listen to them directly on the Tiny Apocalypse YouTube channel. Now we need to gain the loadout of our chosen survivors. To do so, locate the according decks in the middle of the table and gain the cards accordingly. There are also rulebooks on the table, if you're having trouble understanding some of the things. The merchant has a different style of loadout. You'll need to flip the top card of all scavenged decks and gain 1 card. We don't have to flip the crafting manuals since they are only gainable in missions. Gained cards will be placed in the base inventory. Pretty much all scavenged cards have a weight to them, located at the top right corner by a 1 or 2 number and a bag icon. Weight 1 cards will go directly on an inventory slot, while weight 2 cards will go in between 2 inventory slots. Now, we'll need to choose a mission. After that, it's a constant reset of doing missions to bring back loot to the base to build it and defend it against hordes of zombies. Missions are always randomly generated, so it will be different every time. Missions are divided in 3 difficulties. Today, we'll do an easy mission. We won't play it entirely, since it can take between 1 and 3 hours to do a single mission. I will only show you everything you'll need to know to get started. After choosing a mission, each player will have to choose one of their survivor to send to the mission. Each survivor has a different mission passive. Again, you may take a look at them before a mission or when gaining your survivors at the beginning of the game. To make a mission easier, try to choose a survivor with a mission passive that can actually help you in the chosen mission. The chosen survivor will go in the mission part of the table, on the player board, like so. Next, each player will choose one of the 4 starting loadout from the base to bring with them in the mission. The choices are 3 common cards, 2 rare cards, 1 legendary cards, or 1 rare card and 1 common card. With this, they can also bring 2 normal crafting materials and up to 5 ammo. I will choose 2 rare cards: the shovel and the golden ring. We'll need to place them in our inventory and place a base token on them just to make sure that these cards are from the base, and if we come back alive, they will return to the base if we didn't lose them. After choosing their loadout, each player will choose 2 crafting manuals from the same type/color. In missions, when gaining crafting materials, players will be able to craft them to gain their effects. They can be crafted any number of times and are shared between players, but the player that craft it will be the only one to gain the effect. For this mission, I will choose the cooking crafting manuals. When crafted, they will reduce my hunger. All crafting manuals gained in the mission will go in this zone. Now we'll need to deploy the map based on the chosen mission. This particular mission wants players to find the airdrop map tile. So we need to randomly place the airdrop map tile in the deck. We need 10 positive map tiles, 8 neutral and 12 negative for this mission. Let's search for the airdrop map tile and start creating the map. We'll need to gather all 30 of them together, shuffle and place them in the map zone. Since we already have one positive map tile, the airdrop, we'll need 9 more, for a total of 10 for this mission. Now we'll need to place the starting zombie tokens. Since we don't know how many zombies are on it, we'll place to main 1, the white one with an interrogation mark on it. Zombie tokens will always spawn on the borders of the map by using the spinning wheel, and the starting ones cannot spawn on the players, ever. Basically, zombie tokens will trigger a combat when players and them are on the same map tile. Now that the map is done, the last thing we'll need to do is gain/play the mission passive of our chosen survivor. The Antiquarian starts with the Curious Evolution and plays the Collector Evolution at the start. Note, if it's too complicated, there's a simplified mode explained in the rulebook for new players, disabling all evolution from both players and enemies and missions passives from survivors. It will greatly help new players better understand the basics of the game without having to keep track of too many things. The Collector Evolution lets us choose 2 common scavenge cards. Since we don't have a backpack and no food right now, I will choose that. Backpacks add inventory slots to the player's inventory, so they can gain and place more cards in their inventory. Equipped backpacks don't go in your inventory, they are placed here. To know how many slots a backpack gives, it's located at the top right of the card indicated by a bag icon with a number. This backpack gives 3 inventory slots. We are now ready to start the mission. At the start, players will start on the 3 bottom leftmost tiles. If alone, you'll start directly in the corner, counting as the move. Just like the exploration phase says on the bottom right of the screen, after moving or crafting, we'll gain 1 hunger, located on the player board. This board will keep track of everything a player needs to know about their survivor. Health, protection, hunger, toxicity, evolution, status effects, etc. After gaining hunger, we'll gain the weather effect. Since we just started, we'll flip the first one that will affect us all day long. Fumes gives 1 toxicity each phase. Toxicity is located here. After that, we change the phase and do the rest, to finally flip the map tile we moved on. Most map tiles have choices. The player will choose the best option according to their need. Some map tiles have tags, like this one. Instant tiles need to be played when players move on them, and long-term means that it can be played any number of times and stays for the entire mission. All tags, icons, keywords, etc. are explained in the codex section of the rulebook. I chose the cross option. So we lost 1 inventory slot, but we can move 1. A negative tile. Unlike positive and some neutral map tiles, negative map tiles have to be played when moved on. I chose the detour option. We need to gain 3 hunger and move 1. We already found the airdrop. We can go on the top right tile to finish the mission, or we can always try to loot. In this case, we'll finish the objective. The airdrop gives 2 random cards to all players. To know which type of card we'll gain, we need to roll this dice. Now we repeat. If you're in co-op, it would be the next player's turn. Cards from the inventory can be played freely at any time. I will play the golden ring to reroll a common food card until we gain a rare or legendary one. Or an unknown card, like this one. They are the rarest card of the game. They are really strong but have a downside to them. They count as rare cards, so we now lose our golden ring. Let's skip to the night. At night, all zombie tokens will move in the same direction. 1 zombie token will spawn and each player have 50% chance to gain an evolution. To move the zombie tokens, we'll use the spinning wheel to see which direction they are going to move. Since this one cannot move this way, it's going to move to the next direction closer to the arrow, in this case, down. To add a zombie token, we'll do the same as the starting zombie tokens, except that these ones can spawn on the player, triggering a combat immediately. And lastly, we need to roll the dice to see if we'll gain an evolution. To succeed the roll, we need a 1, 2, or 3. Let's say we succeeded, so we gain one of 3 evolution. Again, this doesn't have to be done if you're playing the simplified version. After making your choices, the other ones will be discarded. Important: if any player gained an evolution, the enemies will also gain one of 3, chosen by players. Obviously, you'll need to pick the worst one so the enemies don't get too strong. At dawn, the weather will change for the next phases and each player will gain 1 combat card of their type choice and 1 crafting material. Since I don't have a ranged weapon right now, I'll choose a melee combat card, since most ranged combat cards cost ammo to play and I don't have any. Crafting materials go in this zone. Each player has their own, since crafting materials are not shared. And combat cards go in your draw pile. Be sure to shuffle it after. Some evolution are played at dawn, like my 2 equipped ones, so don't forget them. With champion, we gain a combat card, and if it's common, we can reroll it. Let's fast forward a bit and let's say we would have moved to an enemy token. A combat will trigger. Before a combat, we need to reveal the number of enemies we are going to fight, with this dice. It will always be 1, 2, or 3, 1 being the easiest and 3 being the hardest. After, since it's a zombie token, we are going to fight 1 zombie and place it on this board. The health, the damage and the spawn location are all located here. This zombie has 22 health, has 3 damage and is melee, indicated by this sword icon. It will spawn in melee with the player that triggered the combat. There are also ranged enemies, indicated by this bow icon with a small number above it. Ranged enemies will instead spawn around the player by using the spinning wheel. There are 3 ranged, ranged 2, and ranged 3. Meaning that they will spawn 1, 2, or 3 map tiles around and away from the player. It's time to start the combat. First, we need to check if we have any weapon, mod or evolution that triggers at the start of the combat. Yes, we have the Ancient Runes. To explain quickly, each player has one free move at the start of their turn and redraw 5 combat cards from their draw pile. We would have drawn 5 cards, but since we have the Ancient Runes, we draw equals to the number of enemy in the first turn of combat, which now is 1, but we can choose the card. I chose my card that deals the most damage. All combat cards cost action points to play. This one costs 6, indicated by this number with the lightning bolt icon. All players have 6 action points to spend each turn. So this card costs all of our action points. I attack the enemy with this card, so it loses 15 health. When playing a card or at the end of the turn, all combat cards will go in the discard pile. When no cards are left in the draw pile, the player will have to place the discard pile in the draw pile and shuffle. Some cards have the expend tag to them. It means that it will go in the expend pile and can only be played once per combat. They will only return in the draw pile at the end of the combat. Now it's the enemy's turn. Since we are on the same tile and it's melee, it can attack me. This zombie attacks for 3 damage. So we lose 3 health. If we would have protection, we would have lost the protection before losing our health. It's now our turn. Since the Ancient Runes only affect us in the first turn of combat, we can now redraw 5 cards. The enemy only has 7 health, so I have enough damage in my hand to kill it. So the combat is over. All cards will return in the draw pile. And the enemy will be discarded. At the end of the combat, since we have the shovel, we gain 1 random card and have 50% chance to gain another one. When gaining and equipping a new backpack, it's important to gain or lose the appropriate amount of inventory slots. We have a backpack that has 3 inventory slots and we're about to equip a 4 inventory slot backpack. So overall we gain 1 inventory slot. After that, the other backpack may be recycled to gain crafting materials or, since it's a backpack, inventory slots based on the rarity. Right now I don't really need 1 more inventory slot, so I will gain the crafting material. Let's skip to the end of the mission. To succeed this mission we had to find the airdrop, which we did, and we need to exit by going to the top right corner tile. Now we need to gain our rewards. This mission gives 8 crafting materials and 2 medicine cards and food cards chosen from players' inventories. The gained crafting materials will go in this zone from the base. They will be needed to build the base. After that, we'll need to choose our 2 medicine and food cards from our inventory to bring to the base, if we have any. And since we still have our shovel, from the base, we can bring it back. We can now reset the mission part of the table, with these buttons. Some things have to be reset manually, including the combat cards, which we'll cover in a second. To reset your combat cards, you'll need to spread them on a surface long enough to be spread. Then, right-click on them and click Spread. After, you can click the combat cards reset buttons. You should always have 8 combat cards left, the starting ones. If not, right-click on the Melee Combat deck, click Search and type Starting. If you have nothing, then all of your starting cards are in your draw pile, like we want to. When players return to the base, they will be able to build it. But something different will happen now. Since we drew a Breathing Gem unknown crafting material from the rewards, we need to play it now. When gained at the base, they will make the players lose all of their crafting materials to choose and play an event based on the amount lost. We lost 7, so we can choose and freely play a neutral event. Since we don't have crafting materials, I will choose the trader event and choose the trade choice, which will let us change some of our inventory cards into other ones of the same rarity. To do so, we'll need to flip the top card of all scavenge decks, but this is not important now. Let's fast forward to returning to an advanced base. When coming back from a mission, the base building phase will begin. We'll mainly need to gain our structure's effects, activate one inactive structure, if we have one, and build any buildables if we have enough crafting materials. Now I have the dump structure. This structure gives us 3 crafting materials every time we come back from a mission. I also have the house, which has 50% chance to give us one of 3 survivors. And the gym structure. It gives us a combat card. We can also activate one inactive structure. We have the gun store. We can activate it to gain 6 ammo. After, we change the phase. Let's say we're now at night. At night, there are no event. A combat will trigger instead. Since we're in Zone 2, we will fight 2 hordes. Like everything else, it's explained in the rulebook. First off, we're going to reveal the hordes we're going to fight. After, we need to spawn them with the spinning wheel. They will always spawn on the borders of the map. Lastly, players will spawn. They will always spawn within the zones. At the start of the combat, players will check their utility defenses, to see if any triggers at the start of a combat. They are the green border cards. Since I have the alarm system, I can move all universal defenses anywhere on the map, so I will move the spikes close to one of the horde, to buy me some times, since hordes will focus attack any buildables in range until it's destroyed before moving. Also, before a combat, players can equip one weapon and mod of each type to help them in the combat. But be careful, without the armory defense, they will be lost at the end of the combat. Since these weapons won't help me too much for this combat, I won't equip any. Base combats have pretty much the same basics as mission combats. Since there are no hordes with quick, I start first. In base combats, the main change is that there are way more move cards in the starting deck, since the map is bigger. So, all move cards in hand can be discarded to redraw another card. Now, I used my free move to get closer to the horde one. I will also play a move card to move even closer. I will discard this move card to draw another card. Just like in missions, when players don't have a ranged weapon, they can still play ranged combat cards but only in ranged. So I play Blast to deal 9 damage at the cost of 2 ammo and 4 action points. Since the Horde 2 has Taunt, all damage we're going to deal to the Horde 1 will be done to the Horde 2 instead. And since it has Reflect, we're going to receive the same damage we're dealing. In this case, 9 damage. Then, they will lose 1 Reflect. Lastly, I will play Conserve, to gain 1 ammo. Since I cannot really play anything else, my turn will end and all my cards will go in the discard pile. Now it's the enemy's turn. Since this one is melee, it cannot attack me, so it will move 1. All hordes move to the closest entity, so this one will move on the spikes and attack it. And since the spikes have Reflect, it will also reflect the damage to the attacker, without triggering their Reflect. When any buildable gets damaged, players will place one of the damage token on them. Now it's my turn again. I will fast forward this combat until something new happens. Pro tip: to counter Reflect, use your cards that deal less damage to trigger it before using your big cards. Calm gives us protection. Protection protects health, so we'll lose this before losing health when receiving an attack. It stays until the end of the combat. Again, read the rulebook to understand better, especially the codex. With the cannon defense, which attacks each turn, normally after players, it could have killed the Horde, but since it's ranged 3 and the Horde is located in ranged 4, it cannot kill it. So we will kill it ourselves. At the end of the combat, players may repair a buildable to full health by using 3 crafting materials. Since we don't have any, we cannot do that. After that, it's a constant reset of doing missions to bring back loot for the base and defend it against hordes of zombies. That wraps up this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed. And I hope you learned the basics of the game. If you have any questions, the main place to ask them is directly on the mod page. I'm very active on there, and there is also a FAQ, news and sneak peek of the behind the scene. You can also subscribe to the YouTube channel or follow me on Facebook. Until next time, survivors. Stay safe in the tiny apocalypse.